Ladies and gentlemen, Lang Golf Academy, we have on the screen Lucy Lee, who at 11 years old in 2014 qualified and played in the Ladies US Open. I don't know about you, but when I was 11, I was too busy wondering who would win in an arm wrestling competition, He-Man or Lion-O, but I can't even fathom playing at that high level at 11 years old. We're going to take a look at her swing today, look at her cause and effect. She has a very remarkable swing. It is very unusual. A lot of tilting going on, a lot of tilting issues, but she finds a way to counteract that in her swing, flattens out her swing beautifully, and man, it is a really cool swing. I'm looking at her statistics here. Right now, she is 104th in the money list this year. 109th in the GME Globe season. Driving accuracy is pretty good, 72%. Greens of regulation, 69%, so she's doing pretty good. Her weaknesses, just looking at her statistics, it's putting. 1.87, 154th ranking. Putting average is 162. So the putting is what's hurting her. That was last year. This year, let's take a look at her stats this year. Her putting is still... Why is it? There we go. Yeah, her putting is still 98th and 110. So all the other statistics look pretty fine. Driving distance, 260. Pretty good for 5'2". 5'2", 260. Man, develops a lot of club head speed for her size. So we're going to look at how she does it. And this is a great one to start on. So let's do that. Let's just pause it right there. Back up in my dinosaur computer. Hopefully it doesn't blow up on us. And start to look at some things. Because her face on, which is this one, and her down the line don't necessarily match up. I mean, it looks very solid from this face on. From the down the line, I'm not saying it doesn't look solid, but there's a lot of compensatory motion, specifically in her shoulder tilt, and we'll talk about it. But before we get started, if you do like this, hit that like, share, subscribe. Really helps us grow, helps the kids in Cape Flats, South Africa to get into golf, because we do send proceeds from this channel and my development academies in Southern California to support those children. So just a quick little thumb, just quick little thumbs really helps us out, helps the kids out. So let's take a look right now and get some lines going on the screen here. We're going to do this in Barney Purple. You think Barney Purple is easy to see here? Not really. That's not a good line. Let's go with yellow. Yellow is pretty easy to stand out here. So we're going to look at the right leg, because the right leg does a really good job. And what we're going to do is going to put a cast around her right leg and see how much she does not move, specifically from the top of her swing to right before she gets impact. Not a lot of motion in that right leg, and this is a really good thing for you to look at and how she braces herself. And we're going to do a quick little connection check here. You guys all know about this. Bam, look at that. This, finally, no forward press. This is what you should be doing. Everybody at home, do this. Don't forward press, please, unless you're gifted. And most of us, unfortunately, I hate to burst your bubble, we're not gifted. We're sitting here watching these people. All right, so this is how you should set up. Center of the chest, falls right through the hands, right through the shaft. Everything's looking great. This is a sensory. Don't have to worry about carrying any angles, manipulating the body. Let's just go ahead and clear those lines up and watch her takeaway. So she does a really good job. She gets her weight distribution over to the right side. She does it with her upper body leaning over, but she does not shift the hips, which is great. Her connection's looking pretty good here, so you can see that she's still connected to the center of her chest with her arms. We get to the top position, and now she gets what you will see down the line is an unusual motion, but look at how far back she can go. And this is not necessarily her arms extending past her parallel. It is her turn allowing the club to go past parallel. By that I mean, let's do this in green. Now let's go red. Red's easier to see. So there's the club, and you say, well, Tony, that's past parallel. You know, here's parallel to the ground. Well, yes, it is past parallel, but in relation to the turn, it is not past parallel. So what do we mean by that, Tony? What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. Well, there's the turn, right? So if you do this, right? So if we do 90 degrees from that turn. So let's try and eyeball this. Boom. So does this club shaft go past parallel to the turn? Not really, because if the arms were in control, that club will be back to here. So you have to be careful of what you mean by past parallel. Visually, yes, it's past parallel, but it's done so because there is so much upper body turn. Look at that amount of rotation. I mean, if this is 90 degrees, that's almost 45 degrees from 90. So we're looking at about 130 degrees of rotation with the upper body, and the lower body, it's probably pushing 45. So she's eyeballing it, about 90 degrees of X Factor. Now, there is going to be some X Factor stretch as we get that body to go. Look at that. So now, look at her upper body. It's staying where it is, but look at the lower body. It's starting to torque a little bit more. So she goes from 135 probably to 150, which is, man, that just, ouch. It just looks like I'm going to slip a few discs, but thank God I'm on this side looking at the swing. But let's take a look. Now we're going to do that little brace around the right leg so we can see. Watch the knee. The knee's going to stay in that brace down over here, this region. And this is very important because this is a huge advantage because she is staying very grounded with her feet. And if you'll notice the spacing between her knees, look at the spacing, how it just goes from, you can probably put a volleyball in there too. Ooh, now look how wide it is. It just, man, that's a horrible, there we go. So now we can see how much width it is. You're going to put a yoga ball in there, and that's great because she's planting her right side as she still drives the weight going left. She's pushing. She's making sure that she pushes all the weight through her body. And what I mean by that is, we keep this in orange, is this weight is going in this direction. Let's do this in an arrow, which makes a little bit more sense here. Bam, right there. So that's where the weight's going. It's pushing up and through the body, and it's going to go right through where? The center. And we'll figure this out. We'll figure out where the center is. And look at the angle retention. We still have a great angle retention here. And now comes the tilting. So watch the right shoulder. It just goes down, 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 and bam. And you notice how to assist that tilting, what did the right knee have to do? So you notice here is where the shoulders are fairly level. Now, in order to get the shoulders to tilt, it's not necessarily her shoulders doing it on her own, because that would be a lot of rib snapping. She has to brace that lower body. She has to get that right knee to kind of buckle in and help her whole body tilt back. So it's not the shoulders, it's the body tilting by the right knee caving in a little bit. So watch the right knee. Boom, boom, and boom. So now what that right knee did is, let's draw this one in green maybe. So the right knee gets lower because that shifts the right knee tilt, which obviously shifts the hip tilt, which then shifts the right shoulder tilt. Then in relation to where it was, it looks like, man, that's a lot of shoulder tilt, but it's not really. It's just tilting because everything else also tilted. And that's going to help her get her spine angle back. And you take a look at her hands, and the club shaft just past impact are matching that spine angle, so she's ensuring to swing up. And there's so many lines going on here, but the whole point of this is to figure out where the center of the body is, and that's key, right? The center is where the power goes through this direction and matching your spine angle. So that's right where the belt, you would put a belt on it. So is this enough lines for you? I keep getting people saying I don't draw enough lines or making comments about my lines, but is that enough lines for you? Yeah, I think that's about enough lines, right? All right, let's clear this up and watch how the extension happens. We see a nice handover, right hand over left, and she needs to do this, and we'll talk about it down the line. And as she comes on through, look at that beautiful extension. So we have still that deep shoulder tilt, hands out in front, hands connected to the spine. And look at that, this is amazing. They're still connected to the center of the chest, even when the club is parallel the other way. This is very rare. You don't really see this even in the best in the world. Let's see if she can keep it centered there. Right about there, they have to get away from center, but they're still almost centered. Look at that. Man, if you try and do this at home, not recommended. Don't do it, because you're going to say, Tony, I tried to do that, and I snapped this, and I broke this, and I rolled that. I'm sending you the bill. Don't do it. But do it. Try it and see what happens. But let's take a look at it down the line and figure out which down the line we're going to look at, because there's so many good ones. Let's see which one is going to help us out the most. Ooh, what is this one? Driver? Do we do a driver or should we do an iron? Let's see what this one looks like. Ooh, that looks good, doesn't it? Let's do that one. Okay, yeah, look at this. This is perfect. It's going to run right into it. I know I've played here before. That's somewhere up in, I want to say Northern California or Oregon. Man, if you know where this is, let me know, because that hole looks very familiar. All right. Let me see here. Let's draw some plane lines. Can we do Barney Purple now? Barney Purple. Yeah, we're going to do Barney Purple. Okay, so now the plane lines are relative to the shoulder. The forward bend. We're going to do a back brace line. And we're also going to do a quick little center check and see, is she centered? So it's slightly behind of center. Okay, this might play a part for her. Usually when I see people that are behind center, where their weighting's behind that center point in their feet, they typically have flatter backswings, and they have to compensate by tilting the other way. Let's take a look from this down the line. So we see a pretty good arm getting right down that lower plane line. You can see that club head is slightly getting below. This could be a camera issue. You could be standing too close or too tall. So if she was... whoever he or she was recording this, they were a little bit lower, we'd probably see that club head go right through the hand. So it looks pretty good. As we get to the top here, we can see, oh, look at that. The shoulder does level out the tilt. So this has to do with that setup, right? If you have your weighting on the back, you typically start to tilt this way. And we get to the top of the swing. So yeah, definitely some increased, loss of shoulder tilt, which will allow the hands and arms to kind of get a little bit freer. We can see crossing the line. So we see that club head now is definitely crossing the line, which, that's fine. I've seen people cross the line. I've seen people lay it off. It doesn't matter. As long as you can build some sort of repetition and, compensation. Man. So let's take a look. We're going to do a quick triangle check and see, do the hands want to go where the triangle is forcing? So we're going to do the triangle check here, and you can see it's fairly steep. And that is where the arms should be going. So let's take a look. Oh, look at that. So they do it initially, right? So we see them fall down that line initially, but in between this frame and this frame, they are on the wrong side. So they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be behind. So they should be on this side of the line. Let's do this with an arrow. Come on, Tony, get with it. So they should be on this side of the line, but you can see they're on this side of the line. So she's in trouble. We can see that she is moved closer to the golf ball, and this has to do with how she's set up, and she's in trouble. So her hands need to figure out a way to get down pretty quickly, and watch what she does. And this is all compensatory motions. Let's delete these. 1, 2, 3. Bam. Did you see that? See the hands all of a sudden go down here. Look how fast they go down. So she's in trouble there. She better get them down to get below the slot, and they all go down. What made that happen? Remember that tilting I showed you where the right knee starts to buckle in? Look at the right knee there. So what happened to the right knee? As soon as it starts to buckle in, the arms now drop down because the whole body is tilting back. The knees buckling in, which helps the hip tilt, which helps the shoulder tilt, which helps the hands drop down. So she developed that. And now we take a look. Let's actually do this. Let's go to the top here and see. There is her shoulders at the top, right? This is important, so you can see. That's the shoulder tilt at the top. Now let's take a look at the shoulder tilt at impact. Boom, look at this. That is an exaggerated shoulder tilt. I mean, that is just ridiculous how much shoulder tilt. And you can see, look at all that pressure right in this area right here. The pressure right in that lower right vertebrae. Now remember, the design of the back, the upper part of the back is responsible for doing most of the turning. The lower part of the back is responsible for doing most of the supporting, going up and down. Now, if you do not turn your hips, that lower part of the back is going to pop. That's not designed to do this. So as she will age, this is a very, very risky swing. It's great that she's 21. I think she's younger in this video, but 21 now, that's fine. You can get away with it. But there's going to be a point that your body is just not going to be able to keep up the hip turn for that tilt. And that is where injuries occur. And it's usually late 20s to mid 30s when your body starts to not be as flexible. You wake up a little bit more injured than you went to sleep with. And we've all had that, right? You guys watching this. So let's take a look past that. And we take a look, there is that new spine angle. So she went from here to there. So let's look at how much degrees she changed her spine angle, which is very rare. And So she had a 26-degree increase of spine angle. That is huge for a driver. But that's the only way she can get that club to drop below the slot and get her hands to drop back down, because she lost shoulder tilt on the way back because she was set up too far on her heels. And when you set up too far on your heels, momentum is going to take you flatter, and then you have to learn to really drop and tilt. So this is a swing you just don't teach. It's just developed based on her age, based on when she started golf. And I bet you she started golf very young. To play in the US Open at 11 years old, she started when she was probably 3 or 4 years old. So what type of equipment did she have? It might have been very heavy. So when she picked up the club, it probably pulled her back to being flat. And then she learned to drop in and turn. So it's very interesting when you start to put things together of what created what swing was created, how. So this is really good. And I want you to see this because this is a great swing. It's going to be around. It's going to be a very hot swing for about 10 years. So she better get all that she can do in 10 years, because it's probably not going to survive any much longer than that, unfortunately. But I hope she proves me wrong. Beautiful swing. Wish her the best of luck. Let me know what you think about the swing in the comments. Does it make sense to you? Does this help you? Does it hurt you? Either way, my eyes are on fire because my back is killing me just looking at the swing. Hope that helps you. See you tomorrow. Fairways and Greens.